Welcome to Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. I'm your host, Jill Jardine, Master's in Counseling Psychology, professional astrologer, psychic healer, and yogi. In today's episode, my guest is Eric Rankin, an author, researcher, speaker on sonic geometry, the connection between geometry and musical harmonics. You'll want to stay tuned for this fascinating podcast featuring my guest, Eric Rankin. Welcome to the episode featuring Eric Rankin, my guest, who is an author, researcher, speaker. His website is www.sonicgeometry.org, or you can check him out at sonic-geometry.com. Eric Rankin is a leader in the sonic geometry movement. Eric Rankin is an author, researcher, speaker, and is credited with discovering a significant and previously unknown connection between geometry and musical harmonics. His groundbreaking research, which he calls sonic geometry, suggests that not only is our local solar system a symphonic system, functioning in literal harmony with itself, but it was intelligently engineered around geometric principles. These findings lead us back to an explosive moment in history when ancient Sumerians wrote that a technologically advanced race of sky people provided them with codes and clues which at some point in the future would reveal certain technologies that were used to create our local reality, including us. Eric's sonic geometry videos have been viewed millions of times and translated into numerous languages, while his research and findings have been featured on Gaia TV, History Channel's Ancient Aliens, as well as radio, television, and podcast interviews all over the world. Eric is a featured speaker at conventions such as Contact in the Desert, Portal to Ascension, and Disclosure Fest, and he is the only regularly featured lecturer at the world-famous Integratron in California's Mojave Desert. He currently sits on panels with some of today's most renowned researchers in the fields of physics, mathematics, human origins, and extraterrestrial contact. Recently, Eric published his recent book, As Above, So Below, The Quantum Teachings of Jesus. In this book, Eric shares that many of Jesus' teachings resonate with modern discoveries made in the field of quantum mechanics. As we learn more about the mysterious way our universe works, the incredible miracles performed by Jesus are not only possible, but are beginning to be understood in a way that truly merges the fields of science and spirituality. Check out Eric's movie, Sonic Geometry, the Language of Frequency and Form. Throughout history, numerous clues and hints regarding geometry and frequency have been staring at us, calling to us, and waiting for us to put them into place like pieces of a giant puzzle. Here, at the dawn of the new age, this sonic geometric puzzle is finally nearing completion, revealing the building blocks of a language based on energy, frequency, and form. How will we use it? With whom will we be communicating? Now that we know the basics of this new language, maybe we are ready to begin the conversation. Check out the movie Sonic Geometry, the Language of Frequency and Form. And Eric also leads experiences in sonic geometry at the Integratron in Southern California's Mojave Desert. Check it out. You can find out all about Eric on his website, sonic-geometry.com. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome our guest today to Cosmic Scene, Eric Rankin. Thank you for being here, Eric.
You bet, Jill. It's my pleasure.
So you work with sonic geometry. My listeners are wanting to hear more. What can you share about the work?
Well, that's a term that I coined about 11 or 12 years now ago. And I had a crazy experience. We all have these, or no, we don't all have them, but a voice comes through, and some people call it channeling or intuition or divine guidance. And I literally heard a voice. I was in my office and tell me to go and draw a pyramid on the whiteboard. I'm not a pyramid, a triangle on the whiteboard in my office. And I'm like, what am I listening to? And what is happening here? But I did I followed the order and I drew a triangle, and I had no idea why. And then this voice said, now make note of its sum totals of its three angles. And I failed geometry in high school, and I never did math in college at all, barely went to college. But I remembered that a triangle's three angles always total 180. So I said, okay, I did that. And then the next command instruction was play that as a tone. And I'm like, wow, how would I do that? And if it had been 10 years ago, I would have had to go buy an expensive piece of audio equipment. But now in our smartphones, we all have apps that you can buy or even get for free, a tone generating app. So I played 180 cycles per second and heard a specific tone. And I'm like, am I done? I'm like, no, you're just getting started. What's the next geometric shape? And I'm like, oh, I guess that would be a square or a circle. And what's the combined total of those four angles? 490 degrees is 360. So I played those two tones, and I heard the first, the triangle, which say I'm not pitch perfect, but like it's ah. And then when I played the square, it was ah. It was an octave interval in music. It's same note, just twice as high in pitch. And I'm like, well, that's interesting that there's a musical aspect to just this. And then what's the next shape? Pentagon. And a pentagon's, I had to look this up now, a pentagon's sum total is 540. And I heard what in music we call the fifth interval. So it's la, 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 la. And all of a sudden, I am hearing music being revealed by geometric shapes. So I went through all the elementary shapes, the triangle, circle, square, pentagon, hexagon, heptagon, seven sides, and octagon. And it played one of three tones over and over again at different octaves. And those three tones were a first, a third, and a fifth. So it was la, la, la. And I'm like, oh my gosh, geometry is revealing the most harmonic tone, triad of tones that we call coming home in music theory, because it feels so right to us. And I raced to my computer and said, I got to learn more about how this could be and how could I miss this? And this must be known. And lo and behold, there was nothing. There was not a single mention or notation of how that could be. And so in those 12 years that have passed, in the interim, I became the guy that discovered that geometry reveals major chord harmonics. So all of a sudden, you think of, like physicists think that our universe is geometric in nature. All of a sudden, if that's true, then the universe itself is a harmonic system, literally working in perfect symphonic harmony with itself. And that's what opened the door for me. I really knew nothing about any of this, but I just kept investigating and learning and researching and expanding and attracting the attention of other scientists and researchers. I mean, top level scientists and researchers, physicists that have written many books, New York Times bestsellers and things, and intrigued by the work that was coming out. And I've been talking about it ever since.
That's wild. It's always been there, but it took you to kind of bring it forth and literally stumble upon it to reveal
literally stumble upon it. And it was always there. Pythagoras, 2,500 years ago, had a quote that a lot of people know the second half of the quote. And he says there is music in the spacing of the spheres. A lot of people just hear it as music of the spheres.
Right.
But there's music in the spacing of the spheres, meaning the spacing between our planets would reveal something. But before that, he says there's geometry in the humming of the strings, or vice versa. The humming of the strings reveals geometry. And I'm like, somebody should, if Pythagoras had that thought 2,500 years ago, it seems like somebody would have applied geometry to frequency and hear what it did. And for some reason or not, no one ever did that. And I can't explain why.
Well, probably because when we were in high school, we were all wondering, how are we going to ever apply this geometry in life?
Right.
It's like,
that was me.
Yeah, same here. It's like, this is great, but I'm never going to, apply it in my life. But here we are. It's the law of the universe.
And I never even said it was great. I hated it.
So that's the Pythagorean tuning then, that what you're talking about, the musical notes by mathematics.
It's relational to it. In my work, it became something a little more structured. People think that there's only one tuning system in the world, but there are actual many tuning systems in the world. If you listen to Indian music or Japanese music, you'll realize that in between octaves, that does bring a unification between all music. Is octaves stay the same, but the number of notes and semitones between those octaves is many, many more than the ones we have on our piano keys. That's 12. It's many more than that. So what came to me, which I call the factor 9 tuning grid, is 14 tones before it repeats itself over and over again. And every single tone reveals a reduction to 9. So a number like 81 or 432 into infinity, as high as you can go, and up into tens of thousands of hertz, they would always reduce to 9.
Right. And as we talked about off mic in Sanskrit mantra, in which I'm an initiate, we chant in multiples of 9, like the 27, 54, 108 in the mala
Yes.
beads. So it's there throughout all these systems in the world, the multiple of 9, and 9 is.
Well, and that's what, not just the multiple of 9, but that's what, because when I get interested in something, I really pursue it. And I started seeing these numbers in this grid system. So let's take the number 2160. That's the sum total of a cube. And it still happens to be one of these 3 tones. And I go 2160. Somehow I remembered that an astrological age is 2,160 years long. The moon's diameter is 2,160 miles. And I'm like, something else is actually going on here. And it's truly what it reduces to is there was an intelligence, at least going back 6,000 years ago with the world's first written language, that knew this information and shared it in codes and keys in ancient texts, in design of architecture of sacred sites, in myths. The number 432 shows up in many different myths Joseph Campbell found as he traveled the world, as a mythologist. So there's something so intriguing here that I think we're actually just starting to grasp.
We're decoding the universal language.
It feels like that, yeah.
It's fascinating stuff. And again, it's been here all this time, and it just took someone like you to tune into it. You talk about this on places like Gaia TV and Ancient Aliens, and how does it connect in with some of the information coming through there? Like, how do you tie that in?
Well, it's really interesting because when I started noticing the number sequences, laying out this factor 9 grid, talking to other music theorists and scientists about it, I wasn't while I'm intrigued by the ancient alien theory, and that show, Ancient Aliens, was actually my favorite show even back in 2011 and 12, I wasn't looking for any kind of extraterrestrial connection, and yet it's actually the backbone of all this information. You go back 6,000 years in ancient Samaria, and you have the world's first modern city and the invention of technologies we use today, not tweaks of technology that already existed, but the invention of technology we use today, just in more advanced forms. And from everything from the counting system, which is not base 10, which we would call metric today, it was based on 12s and 60s.
Right.
And so it's like this counting system came 6,000 years ago. And the first written language came there, the first wheeled and axled vehicle, all these firsts. And we can read their language, cuneiform is what it's called when it's written down. And we hear them write down. Now, they knew what myth was, they knew what storytelling was, but they told in factual format that they did not come up with these technologies or inventions or the counting system or the writing system. It was gifted to them from sky visitors they called the Anunnaki. And that just brings this whole mind-bending twist to the whole scenario.
Right, and that's the 12 and the 60s that came from the
12 and 60 launches all of these numbers that we're talking about are held in this 1260 counting system.
Right, and if people aren't familiar, just look at the 12 astrological houses, the 12 constellations, the 12 disciples.
12 inches to a foot, 12 disciples. I mean, here's an example of it permeating, hiding in plain sight. And 60 is also, people that aren't as familiar, although we do know that we measure time by functions of 60 seconds to a minute, 60 minutes to an hour, but we also measure the world officially is not metric. Officially, the world is measured in nautical miles, and those are 6,000 feet based on a 12-inch foot.
Oh,
And
wow.
1 degree of latitude is 60 nautical miles. So this information is actually so embedded in our reality, and yet we kind of overlook it. It just is just there. We don't think it's even worth studying, but it's the fundamental, and there's been mention of it since the world's first written language.
Right. It's throughout different historical eras and different civilizations, like the
All over the
Mayans.
world.
Yeah, the
All over
Mayans
the world.
worked with the cyclical time, and actually their cartoons or their great years. I think one
Yeah.
of them is 20. You said this earlier, 2160, but the Mayan calendar
2160. Yeah,
was very much based on this system.
absolutely.
Interesting.
And it's just, and it goes so deep. Once you start, you open this rabbit hole and jump in. I haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet. And a couple of years ago, I was made aware that the moon, while it's 2160 miles in diameter, it is 108 moon distances away from our Earth. The
Wow.
sun is 108 sun diameters away from the Earth. There's so many cosmic coincidences to it that you just have. And take something like the Great Pyramid of Giza. The Great Pyramid of Giza, if you take the 4 sides of the base, lay them out in a straight line, and multiply them times 432,000, 43,200, you get the circumference of planet Earth. If you go from the base of the pyramid to the apex and multiply it times 43,200, you get the center of the Earth to the North Pole. So somebody was intentionally leaving us tangible clues, just waiting for us to catch up. And, I don't know if we've caught up in time. Now we're the government and everybody's talking about extraterrestrials being real, and we're almost ho-hum about it. But I think we were actually supposed to know a lot of this information before these encountering events
Right.
took place.
We're way behind schedule here on planet
We're
Earth.
behind schedule on the information.
They're trying to catch us up, so they're like, "Here's a good guy to download all this information to, Eric Rankin." We're gonna wake him up, and then he'll share it. In fact, you have a movie, Sonic Geometry: The Language of Frequency and Form. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that? Have you ever wanted to study astrology? Are you interested in knowing what your gifts, talents, life purpose, dharmic path may be? Do you want to understand your chart so when people start talking astrology language? Hey, I'm a Capricorn sun, a Gemini moon, and a Scorpio rise. You can pipe in and join the conversation. Well, I'll be teaching a comprehensive 6-module astrology course starting in January 2024. I have a level 1, a level 2, and more advanced levels will be coming in 2024. So sign up through my website, JillJardineAstrology.com/101. And I noticed you had other ones on. You have other ones on YouTube too, all about this.
I do. There's 3. So the first one was made on 0 budget. It was made by one girl who had just graduated from a movie production or video production school, and she did an amazing job. We were happy if we got 5,000 or 10,000 views back in 2013. By the time she actually finished it. And it's been viewed millions and millions of times and translated into other languages, and college courses have been taught on it. And then we made Sonic Geometry 2 because there were other people bringing more information that glued all of this together in other ways. So we went back to the drawing board, made Sonic Geometry 2, and then we did Sonic Geometry 3, which is a little bit more of almost like a channeling, about a 10-minute, as if once you get all this information, you might be a little more capable. Your mind is ready to receive information. At least it was for me. And I wrote what I received, and my partner on Awakening Code Radio, the podcast I do, she read it. And it's, I think it's possibly the most important one of all of them. But, if you watch them sequentially, it's something. And we just stopped there. I feel like I would let people digest that just as I have been. And I don't know if I'll be making more videos or whatever, but it certainly has opened many doors for me and introduced me to some incredible people. And other researchers were certainly circling around this information. And now we're just all putting it together and seeing that there is something much more phenomenal than we could have ever imagined.
Yes, it's so timely, and I feel like you're accelerating the consciousness with this because it's tying in, people think math, geometry, oh, that's so left brain, but
Yeah,
we need both sides to get that
absolutely. Sure.
hemisphere going and having people's consciousness shift, and this is that missing piece. Well, it's not missing, it's always been there.
It's
Um,
always there.
the other thing that I think is very interesting that you do the experience of sonic geometry at the Integratron out there in the Mojave Desert. I don't
Yeah.
even think my listeners know what it is. Do you want to just I'm just fascinated and I want to get out there and try this, but can you just tell us a little bit about what happens out there and what is the Integratron for those who may not know?
So the Integratron is a fascinating story, and it would take a long time to really drop into it. But an aeronautical engineer, a really normal guy, a Christian guy, suit and tie wearing fellow working at Hughes Aircraft in the 1940s and 50s, was attracted out to this specific place out in the Mojave Desert, and he believed he was receiving messages and communications from an interstellar intelligence that we now call Ashtar Command, or he called Ashtar Command. His name is George Van Tassel, and he is the first contactee of Ashtar Command. And any of your listeners can Google search
Yes.
those two words, Ashtar Command, and see how deep that goes. And he actually had a face-to-face physical encounter from a humanoid being that came out of a craft near where he was camping next to this place called Giant Rock. And he was told to build this device, this frequency machine that could possibly affect time and gravity and have a healing component to it. And he built this machine. It was never fully realized as a mechanical device with moving parts, but it is an incredible frequency chamber. And the owners there offer these sound baths in this what's called the world's most acoustically perfect wooden dome. And I take people out there, and my partner Michelle has taken people out there for years, and we share the story, the backstory of how it all came to be, but also let people experience very specific these sound frequencies that came through in the sonic geometry work. We share those there. So it's a day-long workshop, and I've been doing that for over 10 years, and it is a fascinating experience just all by itself.
That's wild. I mean, just to segue over, what do you think about that sphere in Las Vegas regarding
Uh,
geometry?
I love spheres, and there's an actual connection to that. So that sphere is a geodesic dome. It's not a full dome. It's, if you see it, it's about a 3/4 dome, but it is using a tension structure called geodesic, and that is a term coined by Buckminster Fuller. But it's based on 60 degrees of arc. So we've got this number 60 back in our field again. Of all those triangles in that sphere are based on 60 degrees of separation and offset from each other. And if you start moving in from 2D to 3D to actually 4D, as Buckminster Fuller saw it, now you're starting to actually talk into the fabric of what could be the actual energetic fabric of what space-time is. And it's a geometry based on 60 degrees. And that sphere is based on 60-degree geometry.
Oh, wow. So that's why people are having powerful experiences when they
It
go
could very
there.
well be. I saw it being built about a year and a half ago. It was, the lights weren't on, but once you get near it, it's a very big structure, and it's the world's biggest sphere. It's a quite impressive structure. Billions to build it.
Wow. Well, Eric, we're having so much fun and you're bringing forth such enlightening information. I want to hear about your most recent book, about As Above, So Below, the Quantum Teachings of Jesus. Can you share some insights and
Yeah,
information with our
I
listeners?
sure. I grew up in a Christian household. It was important to my mother that I was raised with some Christian background. I went to a Seventh-day Adventist academy and school and elementary school. But as I grew older, I was kind of off-put by the religion of the teachings of Jesus. Jesus, wasn't a Christian. He was a Jew that had some very deep insights into the workings of life, and a lot of his teachings and ministry actually dovetail beautifully into what we call quantum physics now. whether it's the law of attraction or as above, so below, or resonance. You just alter the language a little bit, and you see that he was truly tapped into something quite profound about the way the universe works. So I wanted to write a book that took the religion out of Jesus' teachings and make it fresh. So it's really a retelling, a reinterpretation of the book of Matthew, with a reflection following. There's 28 chapters. My personal reflection and my ability to bring in some quantum physics theories and ideas. So there's about 6 that are quantum physics principles, and they're all included in that book one way or another. Everything from Schrodinger's cat to the law of resonance to, thought experiments, and it's been very well received. It's doing incredibly well, far beyond what I thought it would. But I want to always encourage people that it is not a religious book. It's not a Christian book. It is a book about compassion. That the only way we're going to get through this as a species is if we follow his teachings regarding forgiveness, love, compassion, and the scientific principles that actually back all that up.
Beautiful. Wow. Great offering there. Eric, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners before we sign out? We've kind of done a very comprehensive
I think
run through here.
You're a great host in
thank you.
kind of covering all the bases. And no, if we started another topic, we couldn't do it in just a couple minutes. So
that would be another podcast. I think
we'll
definitely have you back, and we can talk more about whatever you want to talk about. This has been fascinating.
And come up to the Integratron. Well, I have people that fly from all over the country to come attend the workshop. So if you're ever in Southern California, you can go to integratron.com or sonic-geometry.com and read all about the work, the research, my bio, and things that I've done, and get a good feel for what you might be experiencing out there.
Right. Our mutual friend Tammy was telling me about it. Sounds amazing.
It's the Integratron, and what they do there is amazing by itself. But if you want to go deeper into the story and the experience, no one gets the opportunity that we have. We're in there for hours, where most people, only get to do, say, a 45-minute sound bath, and they don't have time to offer the history and the backstory. And I make sure that we do all that. So it's a fascinating day, and people come back numerous times. Every one of my workshops has return people.
That sounds great. All right. Well, Eric, thank you so much for this uplifting and enlightening interview, and we'll definitely have you back. Thank you for being the guest on Cosmic Scene.
Thank you, Jill. I appreciate it very much.
I hope you enjoyed this episode featuring my guest, Eric Rankin, on sonic geometry. Remember to download, subscribe, share, and give us a 5-star review. This is Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, signing out, sending geometric sound frequencies into the quantum field.